just picking it up. Let me move this stuff over to the other side. Okay, so I'll have YouTube up there. What's up? I saw the closing statements today. Oh my god, what am I doing? Messing up here. I saw the closing statements today. I'm a little bit of a mess right now, trying to get organized. Let me close this out. And I wanted to talk about it. I want to watch it with you guys, the prosecution's closing statements. I also wanted to talk about deliberation, what that's like, and what my personal experience was like. Let me close this out, maximize this. I really would like to set up so people can call in. Honestly, don't know how to do that yet. I was looking into it tonight. Oh, we got some people here already. All right, let me check you guys out. Here. I don't know what I'm doing. All right. Okay. I'm live right now, Ricardo. iCkEdMeL. We got 30. So how you guys doing tonight? Let me mute this. How you guys doing? What's up? Joystick, you just texted me now, bro. Hey, Ms. B, how you guys doing? Did you guys see it? GOM said, did you think they found the jury guilty? Did the jury find Amber guilty? I don't know. How's the audio? I just want to make sure the audio is good. I'm going to share my opinion. Lacey, how you doing? I had a rough day yesterday. Personal stuff. But I have a funny video lined up too. I'm just waiting for the right timing, but I do have a funny video that I want to share. I don't want to even give the idea out yet. But Ricardo, if you want to join me, let me see if I can set up not Streamlabs. Set up this chat app. What is that thing called again? And I have let me switch the screen for you guys. Pull this up. I actually downloaded the, okay, audio's good. Great. Appreciate you guys. Houston, what's up? GOM said this case is getting very little coverage. You know what happens is people get tired. Yeah, Discord. People get tired and get bored of things. That's how the internet works. I really appreciate WFAA doing a live stream. That's pretty dope. Let me tell you this, because everybody's anxious for deliberation. It's good that they didn't come with a deliberation today, because I was listening in from work. Deliberation takes time. When I was in a case, first of all, this case with Amber Guyger and Botham Jean, it's super fast. 7 days, they're deliberating. It's not a long case at all. The case I was on, it took a month. James Laritz. It took a month long. And deliberating took several days. Like several days. And it was somebody that was deceased too. So an instant deliberation could be a good thing or it could be a bad thing. Let me see if I can log on to Discord. And I think while I'm trying to figure out Discord, what I'll do is I'll start playing the video. Let's see what you guys are saying. Okay, Discord. Joystick said he'll call in. Good evening. What's up, man? What's up? I just got on Discord now. I'm not sure what it's doing. But what I'll do is I'll play the video in the meantime.
I never want anybody to ever have to go through or even imagine going through what I felt that night. That was one of the very last things the defendant said when she was on the stand. Are you kidding? That is garbage. Most of what she said was garbage. 99% of this trial has been about the defendant. So let's take 1 minute to talk about that. You know, when you're done with a hard day, we've all been there. And whether you eventually sit down on your couch or your favorite chair, or lay down in bed, it finally hits you, right? I can breathe. You have that moment of peace, right? We've all been there. You guys have probably been there this whole trial. We get back to the hotel. That's what Bo was trying to achieve on September 6th, 2018. You know that because you look at that ottoman and you see that he's got his bowl of ice cream that he was finally going to get to enjoy. He's got his remote there. He's got his cell phone there. He's got his laptop there. And right in front of him is that TV. I don't know if Bo got to enjoy that for 1 second or 5 seconds or 10 seconds. But it wasn't long because the ice cream was still frozen.
So there was like a whole contention, right? And I'd love to hear what you guys got to say about this. I'm going to be doing little pauses. I got to make it a little bit transformative. You know, the whole thing, one of the biggest things from what I've seen, and I haven't seen the whole thing. I'm on Discord, by the way, but the trajectory and the prosecutor, what you're going to see. The prosecutor, what you're going to see, he at one point points out the trajectory. He believes at one point she was lying, that they caught her in a lie, which I didn't see that. And a lot of what comes into question is the training. They use her police training against her. That's what the prosecutor does. So he's saying she's a professional. She should have known to back out from the open door. That there's also a corridor behind. She could have backed out and she chose not to. What we spoke about on the last live stream is the fact that I believe that at least there's going to be a manslaughter charge. I think there's multiple charges on the table. I don't know if you guys can clarify for me. And Ricardo, I could hear you breathing. But there's multiple. Yeah, that's better. Thanks, man. There's multiple charges on the table, I believe. Maybe you guys can clarify for me. I think there's manslaughter and I think there's murder. The other thing, too, that's interesting is that when I was listening to the live stream today, they mentioned that there's this interesting thing I never heard about before, that Amber Guyger, she can choose to let the jury decide her sentencing, right? So here's the interesting thing. The jury can decide. Let's say they say she's like guilty of manslaughter or something. They can decide that she gets time served and probation. So literally she'll like walk and she'll get time served and just probation time. The judge cannot do that. That's according to WFAA. But I just thought that was really, really interesting. And I got Ricardo here with me, which is probably going to piss you guys off. And I think before we even get some of his commentary, I think let's watch some of the video. What do you think? Or did you want to put in something right now before we start the closing argument? Ricardo, are you there? Are you there? Can't hear you right now. All right, so I'm going to play the video then in the meantime. We'll see where we go.
When all of a sudden, this defendant busts into his apartment.
I think you're delayed on the.
What must Bo
on the Discord.
have been thinking?
But
He's sitting on the couch and he acts like a normal, reasonable person. And he looks in the direction of the intruder into his home. She is an intruder into his home. He looks like a normal, reasonable person. He starts to get up like a normal, reasonable person.
I might have fixed the delay. I'm not sure though. Can you hear me live now? Audio live? Or is it still delayed? I think it's still delayed. Yeah, I think it's we have a delay. I'm gonna play let me play the video and I'll figure out the audio behind the scenes.
Who has somebody busting into their home?
I mean, I'm hearing you through the YouTube right now, but I'm pretty sure that what I'm getting in YouTube is delayed from Discord.
By her. A guilty verdict in this case does not mean you hate police. This has got nothing to do with politics. And let me tell you something. The majority of police officers do a great job. They do a great service for us. We saw more.
All right, so let me do a quick pause. Ricardo, am I live now? Audio's live, or is it still delayed?
No, I
Okay,
mean,
good.
I'm
I
hearing
fixed
you
it.
on
Yeah,
Discord
no.
right now.
It's live now. Okay, good. I had to make a change. All right, so you
Okay,
can
well, I'm a
mute the.
refresh.
Well, I think you still have to listen to the audio on YouTube, but we're live on Discord, so there's no delay on Discord. So yeah, what I was saying is that do you want me to play some of the, because you haven't seen this yet, the closing arguments? Do you want me to keep going on, or do you want to make some commentary before we get into the arguments, closing arguments?
No, yeah, I'll let you.
Okay.
I'll let you
Yeah.
do that, and then I'll follow.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Let's play some of this audio so that people can hear. Let me see what people are saying real quick. This is somebody said, "Can someone tell me what's going on here?" This is the closing arguments. This is the prosecutor. This is the person that's on Amber Guyger's side. It's really interesting when you go into court. I know a lot of people. This is the common thing that happens with a lot of people on the internet. Something happens. There's an incident in the news. Somebody gets shot. Somebody gets killed. And they're like, "Oh, F it, guilty." But it doesn't work like that. The system, it's completely, once you go into court, it's a completely different environment. It doesn't work based off of emotions and how you feel. It's what you can prove beyond reasonable doubt. And these people will literally do anything and everything. I've seen it personally when I was on a case for a month. I was on a case where there was like a drunk driver, to keep it really brief, but this person, the defense, which was hired by a baseball player, which had a lot of money, he literally at one point in the case he had vitamin water in his car. There's a negligible amount of alcohol in vitamin water. You can look up negligible alcohol concentration, and that they use that to take into account what was in his found in his blood. So just to give you an idea of the level of when you got money, what these lawyers will do for you. But yeah, let me play this here. I'm going to mute my mic.
Multiple police officers here that tried to save Bo's life, right? Those were good police officers. A guilty verdict is not saying you don't like police. This has nothing to do with that. This has to do with that defendant making unreasonable decisions that put her in that seat and Bo in the ground. That's what this case is about. On September 6th, 2019, 1 year after this happened, y'all all came down to the central jury room. Remember that? You guys had to fill out that 5-page questionnaire. We sent out 4,000 jury summons.
And this part here is kind of interesting to tell you guys how the jury is decided. It's like this long list. They have to look through all the questionnaires. I thought it was kind of interesting, too, that he pointed out that just your decision on this doesn't make you not like cops. It doesn't mean you believe all cops are bad. So I don't know if there's certain political affiliations, or he's just trying to cover to say that we're making this based on this woman, because there's some people that just hate cops all around. They feel all cops are bad. And he's the prosecution. He's on Amber Guyger's side. So to me, this is something that is obvious, that he's obviously going to make this kind of statement, because a lot of people tend to hate cops, especially people of color. But yeah.
About 800 people responded. You 16 were one of those 800. From those 800, about 450 people filled out questionnaires, because 350 people couldn't do it right off the bat for various reasons. After you guys left on the 6th, we all looked at those questionnaires for a week. We studied those questionnaires. We looked at every single answer, and we determined about 200 and something of y'all, not y'all, but the other people were there, couldn't serve either because you couldn't follow the law. We were at 220 people the last time I spoke to y'all on September 13th. And remember what I told you guys. I was very clear in what our intentions were. I said we were going to prove our case beyond a reasonable doubt, and I gave everybody an out at that point. If you can't do it, if you don't have the stomach for it, let me know right now. And plenty of people raised their hands. Plenty of people said they couldn't follow the law. Plenty of people couldn't do it. You 16 told me you could. You said you would follow the law. You said when we proved our case beyond a reasonable doubt, you would find her guilty. Not beyond all possible doubt, beyond all reasonable doubt. And you're going to hear me say reasonable a bunch. You're going to hear Mr. Hermes say reasonable a bunch, because this case is all about what is reasonable and what is absurd. Let's talk about witness credibility. We talked about that as well, remember? We talked about the fact that this defendant was a police officer at the time of the offense. You guys all insured me. She's not going to get a leg up about that. You're going to treat her the same as anybody else. You insured me, each and every one of you, that you would do that. I expect you to follow through with that. You insured me if she took the stand and waived her Fifth Amendment rights, you would treat her the same as any other witness. You would judge her credibility the same as any other witness. She sat up here and told you two different stories. She couldn't even get her story straight, because we go all the way through direct and we go all the way through cross, and the story is, oh, yep, Bo's at the back door and he's coming at me and I had no choice. I get to 13 feet and I just shoot him as he's standing there. Then all of a sudden, on redirect, oh, no, he was actually kind of over by the couch in that area. Because Mr. Hermes had brought up the physical evidence, which is that second shot in the wall over by the couch. She was caught in a lie. You know how you know Bo wasn't at the back door? Go take a look at the pictures. See if you see a little object by the back door. It's a baseball bat. You think anybody in their right mind, with somebody busting through their apartment who's standing right next to a baseball bat, doesn't pick it up? That baseball bat was never touched because he wasn't at the back door. There's no reason he ever would have been at the back door. He was sitting there getting ready to eat his ice cream. Imagine him going into that kitchen, grabbing that ice cream, putting it down, sitting down, and all that happened. That makes sense. That's reasonable.
So I'm gonna pause it here for a second. There was like this whole contention where they were arguing whether he was sitting at the couch and she opened the door and like she got up, I believe, and then versus that like he was already up and moving towards her, and there was this whole thing too where they were saying like was he able to move towards her, and one of the people were saying that he wasn't shot in the spine, so he totally could move a little bit after being shot. It was all this conjecture. Now, I have to say this, because in court you have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. In this case, it's kind of tricky because they're literally trying to interpret what was in her mind, right? Like the intention. Intention is a big deal in court and stuff. You know, did she really, like, did she know she was at the apartment? That was one of the things. Was it an accident? Did she accidentally, is it even possible? Which I think is totally possible. I've said I've done it before. I think she overreacted and she was reckless by shooting and killing him. So a lot of people have that problem. And people are saying, was he sitting down? Was he standing up? It's really hard to say. And one of the questions that I wanted to answer, and Ricardo, I want to get your opinion on this too before we go on. Somebody said, do you hate cops? Do you dislike cops? Me personally, I don't dislike cops. I don't hate them. I don't believe that they're all evil. I've seen people comment on my comments and say, all cops are evil. They're the devil, the wide-eyed demons. I take it case by case personally. And the problem is when there's people that can't do that, take it case by case, and they just have this overall look. And there is some good cops out there just trying to do their jobs. Me personally, I think Amber Guyger should at least be charged with manslaughter. But to prove murder is harder because people just don't understand the concept of intent. And to prove intent, I feel like you almost need to get inside that person's mind. What are your thoughts so far, Ricardo?
Okay. Well, all right, let's try it. Let me try to put my point forth without having people completely go absolutely nuts on me. But when you were talking about the prosecutor talking about the cop aspect of it, I think it's just he's trying to talk to the individual jurors. Maybe there are some jurors there that find it very hard to charge a cop with a crime, regardless of whether it's on duty or off duty. Again, and whenever you somewhat introduced me onto it, you kind of said that I'm on her side. I'm not necessarily on her side. I just, instead of make some people, and I don't want to generalize, but some people are probably looking at this as, um, in one way or another, looking at it in a racial manner. Some
Of
may not.
course,
Some
right, right,
I'm not generalizing it,
right,
but some people are looking at if there was a black cop and a white person, this would have been over. Yada yada yada. That's I'm taking all that out of the question. I'm sincerely just looking
right,
at this in a simplistic manner as, a person killing another person.
right.
Some people also, the last time I was fortunate enough to watch one of your live streams, was also talking about, you know, um, oh man, just many different things as far as, um, how can I put this? Again, I'm gonna try. And you said that you're gonna piss some people off. Again, I'm just trying to stay focused on the possibility that this person um, made a mistake.
Right.
So if somebody last stream mentioned about how she's a cop and she should be handed to a different standard, to a higher standard, I
Mhm.
still look at it as a human being. Period. Um, the I think it's flawed. I think it's a mistake to look at a cop and think he or she should be held to a different standard. They're still human beings. They're still just as you and me. They, regardless of whatever training you think they have, they're still susceptible to making huge mistakes, which in this case, um, she did. Again, you have to look at another thing too. If whether you agree with it or not, if it's, I'm pretty sure with a lot of people, and I'm sure this is completely different, but it's happened to where you've gone to a parking lot in a wherever it may be, you know, a supermarket of some sort, and keyed in the car and about to get into a car, and you realize, holy shoot, this is not my car. It actually happened to me 2 weeks ago. Obviously,
Mhm.
this is a home. This is a whole
Right.
different thing.
I've done
I
that
just
too.
believe it's plausible. I believe it is plausible that she thought she was going into her apartment. While in out of, you have to also think wherever kind of job she did with the cops, you also have to think of, if she really thought that there was somebody in her house, um, you know, I don't, and she has a gun. I don't see this completely out of the realm of possibility that she thought she was in the right place and was shooting an intruder. Same thing with the fact that if she shot this gentleman, and I would assume that if he does have a baseball bat in the back door and he's going to reach for it either before getting shot the first time or even after the first shot, it's plausible that he went to reach for the go get the baseball bat or
So let me
so
ask you
forth and so
this.
on.
Let me ask you this. Are you saying that you believe that Amber Guyger should walk free? She shouldn't get any charge, no accountability. It was an honest mistake, no charge. Walks out
Oh,
free.
uh,
Cut to the
what I,
chase.
I mean, again, that's why a lot of people have. Well, I'm assuming a lot of people would disagree with what I'm looking at. I
Hmm.
don't look at of what she should and shouldn't get. I'm just literally looking at what you're proving. And to charge
Hmm.
somebody with murder, you have to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt, which I
Right.
don't think they have. I think the points that they made from the day four and from what I've heard so far are very. They're grasping at straws. They really don't have a way to prove it. They really don't. It's an impossible
Here's
case. I
my
feel
opinion,
sorry.
and this is coming from somebody that's been in court for a month, and I see what they do and stuff like that. And a lot of people, unless you've seen it, you've gone through it, a lot of people don't understand the court system, whether you feel it's right or wrong. You really do have to prove beyond reasonable doubt. It's just not. I know it sucks for some people, and especially for the family. For me
Mhm.
personally, I feel definitely, easily, she gets a manslaughter charge. Murder,
Yeah,
in
yeah, I
my
agree with that.
opinion, that's a lot harder to prove because there was a case recently too that I talked about. Pablo, I forgot this guy's name, a Mexican guy that he was driving with his family on the way to the airport. He cut off somebody. That person that he cut off got pissed off. The person follows him to a red light, and this is a whole nother discussion we could get into. But person follows him to a red light. This guy gets out of the car, goes up to the car, like bangs on the window, bangs on the door. The driver gets out. They start arguing, kind of like whatever. Then he kind of like seems to start walking away. But the movie star, the Mexican guy, gets out of the passenger side.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, chases after the other guy, punches him in his shit. Which honestly, I would have done the same thing. I have kids in the car, but this is where it gets into that whole thing where because the guy died a couple days after. He punched him one time, he fell on the floor, his head hit the floor. A couple days later, he dies. What do you charge this guy with? Is it self defense? Is it manslaughter? And it's different with Amber Guyger because she mistakenly, according to her, went into the wrong apartment. Which I don't think there's a whole conspiracy behind that. It's possible
Yeah,
that
it
she went
is.
into the wrong apartment. I've done it
And
myself.
I remember the video that you're speaking about. It's that's the thing. It's not self defense on that particular aspect, at least from looking just at the video, because yes, the argument escalated because the gentleman got out of his car, ran up to the other guy. However, self defense would have been if he punched him right there in front of his window. The guy already had walked away. The argument had already
But the
deflated and
argument
everything
that
was
they were
fine.
making is that the guy could have been going back to his car for a gun or something.
Yeah, but of course, but that's the only thing they
But the
have to hang
horrible
on
thing
to.
about that is that they left the scene too. They didn't call the cops. They sped away. They did a U turn. So there's a lot of things to that case.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. But again, it's just if you were a lawyer, and again, this is an assumption. This is just my bystander looking, outside eye looking into it. Again, by looking at the video, which I remember us watching it together, um, or I believe you sent me the
We
link or
spoke
something.
about it. Yeah, yeah, okay.
Yeah. Again, the gentleman was already at his car, and if they were really afraid of the gentleman having a car, I mean a gun, they would have sped off right then and
Mm.
there. But no, the guy got out of the other side of the car to go up to this dude that's already at his car. The whole argument's already gone. You want to get away from a gun? You don't run towards the guy and punch him in the face. You literally use the car that goes 60 miles an hour and get out of there.
And
So that's just a
my
just a
feelings
really
might be a little
horrible.
biased. My feelings might be a little biased. Maybe I'm a little like because the thing is, I feel like from where I come from here in South Florida, New York, if you walk up to a man's car and his family's in there and you're trying to attack them and like open the door and bang on the shit, whatever happens to you, you get what you deserve. You confront a man's
Again, I don't
family,
disagree.
you get what you
Again, I
deserve.
don't
If you
disagree
happen to
with you
die a
on that
couple days
point.
later, hey, you get what you deserve. You don't challenge a man because you got cut off and don't expect
I
no
got you.
repercussions.
Regardless,
Yeah, yeah.
if you're a man or a woman, doesn't matter. Okay, I
No, if
understand
you're a
your
man,
point as far as. uh, Again, I see where you're coming from, but I figure that if you're gonna go on on that aspect where you're threatening me, you
right,
make
right.
that happen right then and there. You don't wait till the guy is leaving,
That's true.
regardless of what you thought he was doing, and
Right,
go
right.
over there and punch him. That throws out the whole thing where you thought you were in danger. Once the guy already leaves, the danger is gone. If you thought he was gonna go reach for, which is a horrible defense in my opinion, if you
Okay.
thought he was gonna go for a gun, you don't have one, you use the car and you get out.
All
So I
right, all
mean,
right.
again, it's just like in this particular case, the defense where you think the guy was, going for a gun is grasping at straws because that's your only defense. Now, turning back to this particular case,
Mhm.
um, everything I've heard about, especially they're trying. When I saw it for the last stream you did, all the points they were making about she should have known better because of her job, this, that, and the other,
Mhm.
and one of your viewers was actually good enough. We had a pretty decent back and forth in chat. Um, I understand where he was coming from, but then again, I don't know whether I asked him somewhat of a smart ass question, but where when you get your badge, you don't stop being a human being. You don't gain special powers. Uh,
That's true, but
no cop should be put above what you should expect from any other human being. So the likelihood that she made a mistake, the likelihood, that she thought she was in her own apartment is very. It sounds fine to me.
but at the
Whether
same
you
time, you're
disagree,
anti-gun though, right? You're an
I
anti-gun
am
person, right? So with that
100%.
gun responsibility when you're carrying guns, doesn't it come to you as a higher level of
Exactly.
responsibility.
No, exactly. That just all that does to me
Uh-huh.
is tell me that she acted reckless, which is
Okay, okay.
one of the things
So
that's
you do agree she was
in line to
reckless?
get her. Oh, well, yeah. I mean,
Okay, okay.
who am I to judge? Because I'm still trying
is very. It
to
sounds
stick with the fact that she thought she was in her home. Who am I to tell her how she should
No,
have
yeah,
acted?
that's a
Because I
that's
am
a
in not that position.
yeah, yeah,
However, the reason, the same way you find some people now that are, excuse the language, but hard asses because they have guns and this, that, the other. You know what I mean? It allows them to do things that they normally wouldn't do. Whether I should tell her that she shouldn't have killed him. You should probably shot her in the leg, this and the other. I don't know, because again, you have to understand that when you put in a situation like that, just scientifically and medically speaking, is your, just like the gentleman said, the danger said, your heart rate goes high, you get
right.
tunnel vision. And I know this, the only experience I've had with that particular thing is getting bombed, um, getting ID'd or whatever. You don't think of anything. There's, you know what I mean? It's literally what's happening right there. There's no,
Right.
unless you believe you're 100% dying, then you go into your family and this, that, and the other. But so I don't want to take the likelihood, and I'm just, again, that's why a lot of people misunderstand. I don't necessarily am not in favor of her or
Okay.
him or whatever. I'm just in the fact that it is plausible that she thought she was in the right apartment. There was a guy in her house, and she thought she was, you know,
Okay.
she needed to defend himself. The same way where if he, let's say he's on this couch and he hears somebody in his apartment or breaking into his apartment, the only thing he could do is, he knows as a bat, he could have ran to the back and grabbed the bat.
Yeah, whatever it is, you can't. Yeah, we can't even place judgment on both of them as far as
Oh,
reaction. It's like, what do you do when somebody walks in your house? But let's play.
exactly.
Let's play some more of the video. Let's play some more of the video. Let's hear some more of the closing argument. Thank you, David, for sending a little donation. I appreciate that. Somebody said end the caller's timer. This is my friend Ricardo, so there is no ending the time. But I do want to have a live stream where I can have people call in. And honestly, Ricardo's
Yeah,
here.
again.
He's not here to agree with me either. I mean, we agree on some things, we disagree on some other things. To
Look,
have
I'm
conversation
not
and
here
dialogue
to.
is not interesting if it's
I'm
just we agree
not.
on
I'm
everything.
not an end all. I'm not an end all be all
Yeah, yeah.
at all. At all. I just think that instead of getting into this hatred mode, just look at the
Miss
fact
B
that.
said, "Thank God he's not on the jury." All right,
Well,
let's get on with the video. Let's get on with the video. Let's keep it going, and then I want to hear your commentary after that. All right, let me play it.
The physical evidence. He's laying right by the couch. He has no pockets. She says she's looking for his hands. He has no pockets. Even if he's coming towards her, his hands are going to be out. But where his hands were getting up off that couch. That's where they were. You guys all know that's the truth. You know it. We went through a bunch of law during jury selection. Remember I told y'all if there's a scintilla of evidence that gets in the charge. Let me tell you something. There's a lot of stuff in there. There's a lot of language and a lot of stuff, and guys, it is nonsense. So I'm going to take you through why exactly all their defenses fail. Mistake of fact, all right? Here's your run-of-the-mill hypothetical about a mistake of fact, all right? Guy goes out hunting. He's going to hunt a deer, all right? He thinks he shoots a deer. He ends up shooting a person who's dressed as a deer. That's a mistake of fact. That's a mistake of fact. This scenario is not a mistake of fact. So we must prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt. Either number one, the defendant did not believe that she was in her apartment, entering her apartment, or that Bo was an intruder. Hey, she believes that. You can believe all kinds of crazy stuff. I could believe I'm in Florida right now. Doesn't mean I'm reasonable. So fine, just cross that out. Or the defendant's belief that she was entering her apartment was not reasonable. Because remember, it's not what the defendant thinks. Because every defendant thinks they're justified. And if every defendant defendant comes in here, if I shoot Mr. Hermes right here in the head, and I say, oh, his red tie turned into a gun, well, I guess, I got to be not guilty. That's not how it works. So let's go through about why her belief was not reasonable about entering her apartment. And you know what's beautiful about this? We had all these people come down here from the South Side Flats. We had these people, the lawyer said, oh, he went into the apartment on floor 2 and he walked in and there was a purse and a lady and all this. Who cares? Who cares? Okay, people parked on the wrong floor. People went to the wrong door. One, nobody ever shot anybody before. And two, let's talk about Miss Rose. You want to talk about somebody in the same similar situation without the defendant's training. Let's talk about Miss Rose, who was the next door neighbor, 1380, next door to the defendant. She told you what time she went on the 4th floor, right? She went down that.
This whole thing with the neighbor, I'd actually like to hear the testimony. And I actually made a note from the last live stream that I have here in my OneNote thing. If we have time tonight, I'd like to watch it because they're using this testimony as a big thing, the neighbor's testimony, and I'd really like to check it out. On day 2, 6 hours and 56 minutes into it, somebody commented on the last one. So if we have time tonight, I'd like to check this out. The other thing, too, what you guys have to understand, Ricardo's actually he's not the typical military person, or maybe I shouldn't say typical. I should say the stereotypical, where people think they're gun-toting, Trump-supporting. Ricardo's not really for Trump or guns or anything like that. He's actually anti that. I'm actually for Trump. I'm the opposite of what most of you would like, but we have kind of differing opinions. I'm going to continue this. I would definitely like to see that neighbor's testimony. And what I was saying about the jury, a lot of the times it's a game in there in courtroom. It's almost not even what you can really prove or not. It's what you can convince the jury. It's all about the jury. That's all it's about. So,
hallway, she turned left. She didn't see that plant or whatever that thing is, right? The noticeable deal, the urn, the plant, whatever it is. She said, that's not there anymore. Well, maybe the homeowner put it in. She walks down to her apartment. Hey, my floor mat isn't there anymore. That's strange. Maybe the apartment complex took it up, right? The smell isn't right either. You know what? Maybe I'll use my eyes, look up at the apartment sign. Oh, I'm at the wrong place. Let's compare that to the trained professional over here, the defendant, who backed into a parking spot. Look at her perspective. She is looking out at the roof line. She is backed in front of the elevator. She's looking at the roof line. She's looking at the emergency exit sign. She's looking at the elevator, and she says she's there for a couple minutes. I don't know what to believe and what not to believe from her. Let's say it's a couple seconds. Let's say it's a couple minutes. She doesn't notice any of that. Terrific. Fine. She walks down the hall. All right, now she makes the left turn. She doesn't notice the plant at all. And then she gets to Beau's apartment. All right? Look. She is standing at Beau's door, and there are 5 things that she missed right there. 1, the apartment number. Okay? Look up a foot. Not that difficult. Can't do that? Look down at your feet. You're standing on a bright red mat. Can't do that because your eyes don't function up or down? Well, guess what? When you're putting the key in the hole, your eyes have to be looking somewhere, right? She doesn't see the red blinking light. Oh, maybe her eyes aren't working. Well, how about her ears? She doesn't hear the whirring noise of the thing turn. Well, now her ears aren't working. All right, what about the sensation from going to concrete to carpet? You can tell the difference, and you know how you know she can tell the difference? She said that she felt when she was standing on the threshold, so she could tell the difference between metal and concrete, but not floor and concrete. That's absurd. It is absolutely absurd. Oh, and then, all right, let's open up the apartment and then get hit with this cloud of marijuana smoke so thick that Ranger Armstrong said 2 days later it reeked of marijuana. So her eyes aren't working, her ears aren't working, her sense of touch isn't working, her sense of smell isn't working. I mean, my God. This is crazy. It was unreasonable. She should have known she was in the apartment, in the wrong apartment. Oh, and how about everything once she gets into the apartment? Stuff missing, the ottoman, all that stuff. This is a trained professional. Think for 1 second. Use your brain like a normal, reasonable human being. Okay, and if you don't want to do that, and by the way, 6 of you can agree on the first belief, and 6 of you can agree on the second, because it's ors. All right, fine. Her belief that Bo was an intruder in her apartment. Yep, because most burglars, what they love to do, they break in without using any force at all. And we'll get to that in a second. And then you know what they like to do? They like to plop down on your couch, have themselves some ice cream, smoke some weed, and watch some TV. Yeah. That sounds like a pretty dangerous person.
He's trying to relate to all the colored people. Oh, just sat sundown, eat some ice cream, smoke some weed. Sorry, I just had to throw that in there. All right.
I can't believe I'm even making these arguments. It's so common sense, and when you start talking about it, it sounds so absurd. All the things that she missed and all the things that she thought. And yeah, she thinks it. But she is not a reasonable person. She was not thinking like a reasonable person that day. All right. So now we get to the point where she's in the apartment. Self-defense. We talked about this as well, right? 3 prongs, and she's got to hit all 3. All right? Yes or no, you answer these questions. The defendant was protecting herself against Bo's use or attempted use of unlawful deadly force, or to prevent the imminent commission of all these various violent felonies. Murder, aggravated sexual assault, apparently he was going to try to rape her, aggravated kidnapping. I mean, there's just all this garbage in there. All right, but let's talk about this. Let's talk about Bo's attempted use or unlawful use of deadly force. He is sitting on his couch eating ice cream. He's not going to throw the ice cream at her and kill her. He's not going to throw a spoon at her and kill her. He's sitting there the same as y'all are. You guys apparently are all posing deadly threats right now.
So here he's doing a thing. I mean, he's making ridiculous claims, but he's also relating to the jury. You know, he's saying he's just basically getting the point that she's not in fear for her life, and he's saying that all you hear on the jury, you're all culpable too of deadly force because you're just sitting there. So all he's doing is really just trying to relate to the jury, which is what he's supposed to do. You know, right here.
So that fails. And if that one fails, the whole rest of it fails. But if somehow you think, well, eating ice cream, that seems like a deadly force to me. All right, go on to number 2. There was a reasonable belief based on a reasonable person standard, not what she thinks. That use of deadly force was immediately necessary. Not 3 seconds before, not 3 seconds later, at that instant when she shot him. It had to be done. It had to be done because Bo had the audacity to think, what is going on around here? And he tried to rise up off his couch. Well, there's nothing else that could have been done. Had to have been shot dead right there. And I'll tell you another thing. She made that decision outside the door. She made that decision outside the door. She was going to go in commando style and just execute whatever was in there without thinking. And that's not reasonable either. She had other options. She could have retreated, and you can use that against her under certain circumstances. One being, she didn't have a right to be there. Another being, she provoked all of this. You can use that against her. Somehow you think it had to be done right then? All right, number 3, proportionality, equal force. We talked about somebody slaps you in the face, you can't shoot him in the head. He's eating ice cream on his couch. So if you're sitting and eating ice cream, you get shot in the heart. Is that what we're saying? Castle doctrine. This, in a case full of bizarre things that I have to go over that I never thought in my career I'd have to talk to you guys about with this absurdity and unreasonableness of her, castle doctrine. Who does castle doctrine protect? Homeowners. It protects homeowners against intruders, and now all of a sudden the intruder is trying to use it against the homeowner. What are we presumption is if the defendant knew or had reason to believe, all right, even higher than the other one, that Bo unlawfully and with force entered. Force. Where's the force? There's no broken door. There's no hinges. There's nothing like that. There's a door that's cracked open. That's not force. So if somehow you think Castle Doctrine applies, there's no force. All right. Force entered or was attempting to enter unlawfully the defendant's occupied habitation. Occupied habitation, she lives alone. We talked about this. This is for the intruder barging in on Bo. That's what this is. Intruder barges in on Bo. Bo has the right to shoot that person under Castle Doctrine. Not the other way around. There's other parts that are in there too about that he was trying to force her out of her apartment. Oh, and by the way, defendant's occupied habitation. Let's not bury the lead. It's not her apartment.
That's a good point too. That just to pause really quick that Ricardo made. It really is a big thing in court, proving motive. Proving motive. What is Amber Guyger's motive? Can any of you say in the chat? Is it just racism? Is that the common thing that you will say in the chat? Is there an actual motive that's provable besides some social media posts? Now, I'm not defending her because I said that she should. I think that she should easily, and I think that when the verdict comes to and when they do the deliberation, she'll get a manslaughter charge. That's where I think this is going. But can you prove murder, though? Intent. Proving murder is that there was a history or something. Proving murder is that in her mind, she went there to kill this guy. But the difficult part about this is that she said that she intended to kill him because she thought she was in her own apartment. That's what kind of makes this case a little bit kind of like tough in a way. Because if she thought, and that's what we have to assume. We don't even know. How can you tell what's in somebody's mind? We just have to assume that this is what she thought. She thought she was in her own apartment. I do believe she acted recklessly. And I do believe that this will be manslaughter. And they did the smart, strategic thing. And if you haven't heard me at the beginning of the stream, I said that she, from what I heard WFAA saying, she left the sentencing to the jury, which is a really smart thing on her behalf, because the jury can say that she does probation with time served. The judge can't do that, but the jury can. So, interesting. All right, let me continue here.
Let's not lose sight of that common sense. You know, sometimes when you're dealing with these absurdities and things that don't make any sense, you lose your own sense as well. Don't let that happen to you. It's not her apartment. There's no force. It's not occupied. She don't get Castle Doctrine. No. This law is not in place for her. It's in place for Bo. So here's what you're left with when you knock out all those defenses. You're left with one question. The question is this: is it manslaughter or is it murder? That's what you got to decide. Is it manslaughter or is it murder? Now remember, we talked about that as well. Murder does not involve premeditation. She didn't have to decide going in there, I'm going to kill him. There doesn't have to be any motive. There doesn't have to be any conspiracy behind it. All right? Murder is intentionally or knowingly causing a death or intending to cause serious bodily injury and committing an act clearly dangerous to human life. She got on the stand and told you what her intent was. Her intent was to kill. That's murder. All that stuff leading up to the door doesn't matter at the time of the shooting. All this stuff leading up to the door doesn't matter for self-defense in terms of what's immediately necessary, and it doesn't matter murder versus manslaughter. Now look, if somehow you heard the testimony different than I did, or you see the evidence different than I did, I can argue all day, and I'm not going to be able to change your mind if you think that shooting somebody in the heart and getting up here and admitting that that was your intent, if you think that's a reckless shooting, I can't do anything with that. All right?
Here's 20 minutes.
Thank you, Your Honor. You understand our position. You understand that she admitted what her intent was. But I'll tell you one thing. This is not acquittal. It's murder versus manslaughter, and it's murder. Manslaughter might have been if that second shot that she fired through the wall hit somebody down the block walking around. Maybe that's manslaughter. Maybe. Although I'd still argue that's not clearly dangerous to human life. But you know what? Thank God that bullet didn't hit anybody as she's going in there just guns blazing. The defense is going to come up here in a few minutes. They're going to talk to y'all. And I want you to think about a few things when they talk to you guys. Every time that they mention the word mistake, I want you to think about Ms. Rose and about what is reasonable and what she did and the signs that she saw that this defendant did not see. It's not a mistake. It's a series of unreasonable decisions. She did not think that night. When they talk about deadly force, and she had to use deadly force because that was what was going on in her mind. You think about Bo about to eat some ice cream and ask yourself, is Bo a threat? Because you know what? Nobody was going to die that night. If she had thought for 1 second, you know what probably would have happened? She would have walked in, she would have felt embarrassed for a second, and knowing Bo's character, he probably would have laughed it off.
I think we're at the gist of this because he's kind of dragging on. Do you have any thoughts you want to share about this? And the other thing too, Ricardo, is I want to play this other clip where they bring up CPR, and I know you were like a medic in the military and all that stuff, so I really want to get your thoughts on this after you hear the clip. But so far, what you heard, do you have any thoughts on that, or?
I mean, yeah. Let me try not. I've been somewhat trying to engage with some people. I see a lot of different comments with everybody's just expecting a murder charge on her. Again, at this point, just looking at what he's been talking about, a lot of people have to understand that right now, she is supposedly, not guilty. Again, that's why she's standing trial. Again, what I'm just grasping at is none of the outrage, whatever. I'm just centered and focused on what I'm hearing and looking at and what they presented through all the hearings. Nothing in here whatsoever, and none of the things that he has pointed out to the jury just now can be proven in court. None of it. Whether if he got an emotional jury, then he's gonna get what he wants, which is murder. Good for him, I guess. Again, but in court, nothing I've heard so far proves murder. Manslaughter, yeah, because she acted reckless. I could see that. Most likely, that's what she'll get. But as far as murder with premeditation and all this other stuff, I doubt she'll get that. Everybody was. I'm just literally listening to everything and just hearing what they're saying, this that, and the other.
Yeah.
Again, I mean, I understand their outrage and I understand this that, and the other, but just looking at the simple fact that to this point right now she's supposed to be a not guilty until she stands trial. Nothing that they have gone through shows me that she proves anything. I read it. I don't even done it. I read it. No, but nothing.
Sorry,
That's hilarious.
because it's a
I read it.
interview
It's
with a
hilarious.
Caucasian.
Yeah, that's exactly why I was laughing. I saw it too. No, but just again taking the whole emotion out of it.
Right.
Nothing here says murder. And even some of the things, if it wasn't the fact that he was doing a closing statement, he would probably got stopped by the judge when he was talking about she was standing outside the door, planning. He would have stopped them because he can't prove that, and he can't even say that. If it wasn't the closing statement, he would have got stopped right then and there. But again, taking away all the, taking away. Well, here's a comment. Here's a comment by Rex Smith. It's not outrage, Ricardo. It's the law. But that's exactly what I'm sticking to. It's the law in
Yeah.
court taking away everything you might feel she might have to. You might want her to get murder, life sentence, whatever. If you look at what was presented, nothing here proves murder. Nothing at all. Nothing at all. You think a lot of people that want her to get murder just sees a woman, a white woman, that shot an innocent black man in his apartment. I get it. It fucking sucks. I get it. I 100% get you. It's horrible. I see a person that made a mistake and was reckless, which again calls for manslaughter, and killed somebody. Why? Because she had a fucking gun and used it. Period. If she did not have a gun, that wouldn't have been an issue. Homicide and
Yeah.
manslaughter. I understand between the negligent homicide and manslaughter very much so. I'm a very well educated man. So please, again, if we were literally just having back and forth, this is literally me taking the emotional out of it. And just look, if you literally look at what was presented, there's nothing here that proves murder. And if you saw anything in the all the days that this case went through, if you can tell me, you know, anything that was shown here that tells you was murder and how that was proven to me, then great. But looking at the case and getting away from all the emotional crap that you might add to this, because according to apparently most of the people that comment on here, if you put you guys in the jury, we wouldn't even need a trial because you already made up your decision before a trial that she was guilty.
Well, that's why
Again,
most people wouldn't be selected in the first place because
exactly. So just simply looking at what was presented, there's not a murder. There's not a murder charge here to be handed down. And I'm not a law masters or anything like that. I'm not a lawyer. I'm no judge. Just looking at how this was presented, and a lot of people made. You know, what's the worst part for me is some of the people that comment on the side is they made excellent points, but yet instead of focusing on those things, for example, the fact that she didn't like the fact um, that he used marijuana and he smoked marijuana, if they focused on that and maybe that, put that forth instead of grasping at straws and try to discredit her as she should have known better because she's a cop, they knew they didn't have much of a case and they're grasping at straws. Simple and that. If they spent their time over things such as the fact that she didn't like the fact that he smoked and this and the other, they could have perhaps, uh, come up with a reasonable explanation for murder. But I just don't see in everything that was presented. That's it. Not that she's a good person, not he was a bad person. Has nothing to do with that. Not that she's white, not she's a cop, not that he's black. None of that. I'm literally sticking to the fact that as a prosecutor, I think they failed to prove murder. Simple.
So,
That's it.
well, I'll give my opinion again, and then we're gonna get into this medic part because I want to hear Ricardo's thing. I know a lot of people are like pissed off or whatever, but it is
Yeah,
true
I mean
with
that's
the
fine.
court
I'm okay
thing.
with that.
No, with the court thing, I know most of these people haven't even probably even sat in a day in court to do their duty as an American, which is to the jury duty thing. But it really is. I'm not saying the system is right, but um, a lot of people
And
too.
again, I just looked at a comment. Like,
Uh,
I'm not saying the fact that he's smoked is irrelevant. It's really not. I'm referring to the fact that she didn't like that he smoked, so she perhaps did something, was going to confront him in some way or another. That's fine. But again, they should have focused on that instead of trying to discredit her police record or even the fact that she should have known better because she's a cop. That does not do anything for this case. That does not say murder.
well, here's
They
my
failed.
parts. Here's my parts. This is what I'll say. I say that, and this is looking from I've sat in court for 30 days, a month long in a case. I've seen what these people. First of all, let me say with the prosecutor that people say that he's doing an amazing job. I say he's doing an okay job. It's not amazing. I'm serious. When you look up James Laritz, the case that I was on, this guy was paid a lot of money. So you will see what an exceptional lawyer can do. this lawyer, the prosecutor, I think he's doing okay. He's doing a decent job. I think from what I've seen and from what I feel, I think they'll get a manslaughter charge. Manslaughter doesn't mean much though. Like I said, they're gonna probably leave the sentencing to the jury, which could just get her time served with probation, and I know a lot of people are gonna be pissed off about that. And a lot of people, I think, they
I
can't
don't think she's gonna
differentiate.
get probation. She's gonna get jail time,
You think
but
she'll get jail time? Okay.
not for.
But do you think she'll get charged for
Yeah, she'll
manslaughter?
100% get jail time. I'm sorry, get charged for what?
She'll get charged for manslaughter. You think, or what do you feel?
I think she. It depends, obviously, on the jury.
Right, right.
I think she'll get manslaughter because of her recklessness and all that.
I'm thinking
But
manslaughter. Somebody said most of the
but
jury's black. I heard it's like black and mixed Spanish, but
again,
honestly,
that's the
you
thing.
can't
You
just.
get away from thinking about that. That's the
That's the thing.
thing.
Yeah,
Like,
some people are
I
so hung up on
understand.
race. Everything is race. But the thing is, there's a lot of people that might be of color that don't agree with what you agree with, as far as
There's
generalizations or politics or whatever.
again, the race has shouldn't even become a factor on that. Like, it's
Yeah.
again, I'm not delusional. I know it happens, but I'm not saying that it should. I don't think it should. But again, I think she'll get jail time. I don't think she'll get probation like some people think or whatever. I think she'll literally get, but she's not gonna get. I don't think she's gonna get.
LGBT said, iCkEdMeL, you went harder on Malia Davis' case, which is all circumstantial. I don't necessarily. I don't know that I agree with that. The trial hasn't happened yet.
What's Malia Davis
Malia Davis.
circumstantial?
Yeah,
Okay, all right. Well,
I mean, the
I
little girl was
this
dead. She
is
was tossed in the side
this is.
in a
I
garbage
remember.
bag. It
Believe
was
me, I
ran
remember
over
this
and all
case very
stuff.
well.
I would hardly call that
Um,
circumstantial,
I,
but
I don't
hey,
know.
objectively speaking,
Circumstantials are
circumstantial.
really
That's tough.
doesn't.
Well, the thing is with
Somebody
Malia
needs to
Davis,
look up what circumstantial means, I guess.
with
But
Malia Davis,
uh,
there's a lot we don't know. So it's. I know people want to place judgment. It's really hard to say. There's a lot that we don't know and stuff like that. The little girl is dead. One of these people had something to do with it. It wasn't an accident. She wasn't just kidnapped. You know what I'm saying?
oh, what do you think though, Melvin? Going back, coming. I don't even want to go with the Malia Davis thing because
I don't
that's
think we should go into Malia
the,
Davis because that's a whole
talking.
nother
Yeah,
thing.
talking about that being circumstantial just stops the conversation. But one of your viewers, Rex Smith, he
Mm.
was talking about negligent homicide. That's not out of the picture.
Okay,
We're
negligent
talking about
homicide. That's a good point that he brought up because
yeah,
when I heard these people on WFAA talking about
yeah,
negligent homicide, that's a really good thing. And they said
yeah.
there's not much of a difference between negligent
There
homicide and
isn't.
manslaughter.
There
It's
isn't.
just kind of a
Correct.
name thing, and
Correct.
that's it. There's not much
Yep.
of a difference. It's the same shit. It's
Correct.
not
The
a murder
sentencing
charge.
exactly. The difference obviously is literally just a title. Manslaughter
Right.
and negligent homicide, they pretty
Right.
much carry the same sentence. Uh, call it whatever you will, but there's a huge difference between murder and a step down to negligent homicide and manslaughter. Huge, huge one.
Hmm.
Actually, to be completely honest, I think if you look at the definition of negligent manslaughter, I think it actually falls more into line to what she did. So there you go. I actually think that might be her charge, negligent homicide,
Okay, so
because of
let's
the
look it up. Let's
results.
look it up for people that want to argue negligent homicide. I'll put it on the screen for you.
No,
Let's argue
I
that.
think
Let's argue
negligent
that.
homicide is the correct would
And
be the
it's
correct sentence to give her.
but let
Again,
me say
because
it, it's
manslaughter manslaughter is it's more of without malice kind of a thing.
right.
Um, but you know what I mean? So where you didn't intend to kill her. So like that, I think that actually throws manslaughter out the window because she did intend to kill him, but not in the aspect of you know the way you usually
I
look at a
I
crime
almost
like
want to
that.
I almost want to play the because Rex is saying there's also a difference between negligent homicide and manslaughter. I want to almost play the clip. I'll see if I can find it for you guys. This is a good conversation.
No,
We need to disagree. We need to bring up these conversations. But
yeah, yeah. I
manslaughter. Look at this. Is it negligent homicide? Let me see. Negligent homicide, right? It's not negligent manslaughter. Negligent homicide sentence, which brings up almost the same thing. Overall punishment in most states ranges from 6 months to 10 years for negligent homicide conviction. So, what are we really I could
Okay,
be.
okay.
Let's
How long
see.
do you actually think she's gonna be? You okay? Let's even get away because I think she's gonna go to prison. I absolutely believe so. But how long do you think her sentence is gonna be?
Honestly, with that, I can't tell. I honestly don't know because the thing is, what we were talking about is that they were saying they might leave it for the jury. So if it's for the jury, it can be very light. I mean, what I'm seeing here, well, this is
What do
just
you
Florida.
leave what for the jury?
There was a thing. I want to really play this clip for you guys. I'm gonna try to
The
find
the
it.
jury, the only thing the jury will decide is what kind of charge she gets. As far
No,
as the
there was this
sentence, that's
really
all
interesting part
judge.
today they were talking about where they were saying that the jury they can leave it up to the jury for whether it's going to be like time served and probation. I'm gonna look up the clip so we can play it for you guys. I'm gonna find it so I can tell you what I'm talking about. Let me pull it up right here.
Hmm.
But there's not much like when we're talking about the overall scheme between manslaughter and the homicide,
Neg- yeah,
negligent
negligent homicide.
homicide. There's not that
Mhm.
much of a difference. So I mean, if you we could.
Yeah, yeah. Again, I think he makes a good point. I think yeah, if you were to look at the definitions of both, I think she uh, negligent homicide would be the correct sentence just because of the end result.
Hmm.
Um, but again, it's fine. But then again, the sentence should be the same. The amount of time in jail or so forth and so on be the same.
of
Hold on. The
murder
commentator
cases.
said,
Legitimate
"Mama
stranger
not
murder
having it."
cases are
The
very, very
commentator
rare.
said
Very
today
rare.
negligent homicide not. Um,
Let's see if I can
what
find it.
exactly do you mean on that about that?
Well, that's the thing, the issue too that people say murder is just murder, and I understand the. It's like a. There's levels to it though. I know it sounds ridiculous. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, murder is murder, but like
Hmm.
really in the system in the court of law, there's levels to intent. Was it on purpose? What
She
was
will
in the
be
person's mind?
remembered for a very.
Somebody's asking, what is the possibility that this was a premeditated crime? There's nothing to.
There's no evidence of that.
Curious George said, "Will she
Did you
be
just
able
say
to
that?
still be a cop?"
The okay, there's this lady on WF, whatever you want to call it, and she acts as this judge. He's a retired judge. He said, "What is the evidence of a premeditated murder?" And he said, "There's none." That's literally what he just said. And a lot of times in these criminal cases, it's one of the biggest
Yeah,
things.
exactly. But that's the thing. That's the thing that I was telling you about earlier when he said that she stood at the door and thought about it before going in. That if it wasn't for the fact that it was a closing statement, he wouldn't even be allowed to say that. Because unfortunately, if you were trying to prove that, he failed. The prosecutor failed at that miserably. Because in any of the 4 days, he just literally tried to discredit her training, discredit her, her as a person, but yet didn't focus on trying to prove murder at all. At no point whatsoever did the prosecutor, focus on proving murder. He just literally tried to discredit her and hope to God that he struck a chord with the jury to give murder.
All right.
But again, in no way, shape, or form did he ever focus on proving murder
So
beyond a
let me do
reasonable doubt.
this. Let me you integrate you engage with the people in the chat. Let me try to find this clip. I want to play some audio where they talk about this whole thing with the sentencing and the jury. So just pause for a second and
Oh,
chat with them.
yeah, that's fine. Oh, yeah.
Somebody wants to know, why did DPD fire her? Well, she was fired
Oh, okay.
a few weeks after the shooting.
Storm
That was
said this
after
is
she had
not
been arrested.
negligent homicide.
Um,
Well then,
Don't
what would you
don't
think it
so
would
all
let
I
me
ever
be?
talk
saw
though
was a
because I'm
large.
playing audio.
See the
So you
You're
can.
questions
playing.
are
Oh, you're
always
playing audio. I
too
didn't
Yeah.
slow
hear.
for me
Let me
sometimes to
see if
keep
I
up.
can hear it.
Let's see here. How big a deal do you think this? I kind of keep going back to this red carpet. It seems like to me there's like if I'm thinking of this visually, and I was a juror, I would think the ice cream and the red carpet. I mean, those are kind of like the two things that might stick in your mind, right? Do you think that'll play important with the jury?
I think certainly the ice cream, very emotional testimony. It just goes straight to the heart of this was an average guy doing an average thing, and then this happens to him, right? And so that's to just kind of, it's a way for the prosecution to just cut through all the other facts and circumstances and just say, this is what this case is about. The doormat, I can understand the state's argument. I can also understand the defense argument counter to that she had her arms full of equipment and maybe it was blocking her view, so I can see both sides of the argument on that. So on the state saying, well, how could you miss a red, unique doormat like that? And they even made hay of it in their closing arguments because during Miss Guyger.
So just so you guys know, this is like the after the whole thing today with the closing arguments. This is a reporter from WFAA, and this is a former criminal court judge. I have the quality playing back at low just so it doesn't mess with the stream. All that matters is the audio, but I want you to hear their afterthoughts. And at one point in this, they talk about the sentencing, which I think is really important, and I want you guys to hear.
Testimony, she mentioned that she could feel the difference in the floor. And so Mr. Hermes says, well, why didn't she feel the difference of the doormat from the concrete? I thought that was a good use by Mr. Hermes of that piece of evidence. But Mr. Shook comes back and counters that her arms are full and blocking her vision, assuming she was even looking down.
Judge, let's reset for folks. We're still sitting here in a holding pattern. We haven't gotten any questions. I guess you and I kind of kicked off this again because we thought maybe we would see something. So let's reset for everybody.
Okay.
Where are we at right now?
So right now, the jury's been deliberating, I think, close to 4 hours, or in a few minutes it'll be close to 4 hours. They haven't sent out any notes. As far as I know, I don't know if they've requested exhibits or been given exhibits. So presumably they've been deliberating. They were given a pretty lengthy, pretty complicated jury charge to consider. So you could understand if they need some time to just digest that. But earlier this morning we heard closing arguments. It was both sides' opportunity to summarize what they believe the evidence shows. And I think both sides were very effective at that. Mr. Hermes and Mr. Shook in particular.
Today, you 12 people need to write the last chapter. I mean, that was the gist of it. I mean, he was pretty, and from what Jason said, he was standing right in front of Amber Guyger and kind of thundering as he said it. Mm-hmm. So what kind of impression do you think that would have left on the jury?
I think it would have made a strong one, and that's what you want to do if you're the prosecutor getting the last word. You want to leave a strong impression with the see what the light's about. So, as expected.
Could be a question?
Could be a question. It could just be the jury saying a verdict on guilt, innocence, or a verdict on punishment, whichever comes later.
Okay. Somebody else was asking what's happening. Well, not the chief was saying she couldn't fire her and this and that, and both of us have covered the Dallas Police Department long enough to know that the chief has the authority, and we've seen it happen with prior chiefs, to do an expedited firing. They can do an expedited internal affairs process, and they can get people.
So here in this conversation, they were talking about why it took so long to fire Amber Guyger. That was one of the big heated discussions, and I think they're about to pull up to the whole sentencing thing, which is what I really want you guys to hear. The whole deliberation process is kind of interesting. I was on a case one time, like I was telling you, James Layritz, and like you literally go into a room, you go over the entire case. You can request whatever. You can ask questions if you want to look over certain videos, if you want to look over certain pictures, certain thing, whatever. You can request to go to the next day. When we did the case, we were actually hung at first, which means we couldn't get everybody to come to a concise decision. And the judge said, listen, try again, try harder. It took us a couple days. It took us, I think, maybe 3 days to come with a decision. And in the meantime, you could order whatever you want. We get pizza, chicken, we chilling. It was a really good time too. I can't lie. It was a good time. But it's very it's a lot of pressure, because the thing is too is once you finish deliberation, well, guess what? Then you have to deal with media coming after you. They want to ask you questions on why you made the decision that you made. Then you have to deal with people that are angry with you for the decision that you made. You have to deal with people maybe looking you up and Googling you. There's a lot of pressure that comes with it, with the whole deliberation thing. That's why a lot of times too, and if you've seen throughout this whole trial, which I'm pretty sure, they never take the camera and pan it over to the jury to see their faces and reactions. They don't do that.
Fired very quickly, and I think she got fired about, my recollection is maybe 3 weeks after the incident. There was a lot of controversy about how long it took. Someone had asked overnight, how long will the gag order last that everybody's under?
I think the gag order will go away as soon as the case is finalized, whether that's, and it's going to be a verdict or a verdict on guilt innocence or a verdict on punishment, whichever comes later.
Okay. Somebody else was asking what's happening. Well, not much. We're waiting on the jury to deliberate. Deliberations, and we saw a red light a few minutes ago, which might have been indicative of a question, but we don't know yet.
It could be question, it could be the jury's ready to go.
Mistake of fact. Have you ever argued that in one of your cases or heard it argued in your court?
The only time I can think of it coming up now that I'm really thinking about it is in a shoplifting case that I prosecuted. Oh my God, I would have to say close to 15, 16, maybe even 20 years ago now. And the woman who we were prosecuting said that she was actually an immigrant. She wasn't. She was from Egypt, I believe, and she didn't understand. She had never been to an American mall before, and so she thought it was okay for her to pick up this piece of property and walk out of it.
Okay, we have an answer. Court is done for the day, and they will resume at 8:30. They didn't come in the court and say anything.
I'm shocked by that. I would be shocked at least.
I think that would be today. You 12 people need to write the last chapter, and the red, I won't say who, shooting. So but
a claim like if you walk onto somebody else's property to start a fist fight. Myths about juries. That's an interesting question. I tend to think that the jury system works
early on.
Okay.
Somebody was asking if juries get paid. The answer is yes, but it's like what, 20?
But you want to be respectful, and so I think some of her earlier images were.
Jury this morning. The other side said.
So I was just curious what had happened to people who may have heard of the case but maybe didn't actively follow.
Yeah, I don't know if she's in the courtroom.
Yeah,
I'm
it
trying
could
to
be.
find this, one section.
That's a very good question. I mean, they could have taken her out. It would be a minimum of 5 years in prison.
Okay, this is it right here. Hold on.
Ask the folks of the digital team. Do y'all know, did they sue the apartment complex at all? Do you know if the family sued because folks are asking me that, and I don't recall. We'll double check that. Because what's being asked is, do you foresee a lawsuit against the apartment complex in terms of the way the locks are, I know they sued DPD, but I'm not sure about the apartment
I didn't even know about
complex.
this.
I wouldn't be shocked because it's apparent that many people were having this problem. So the apartment complex should have been aware that these issues with the locks, issues with the door construction, things of those natures should have been aware. They should have been aware of that. My understanding is that they've taken some remedial measures since the shooting to clearly make it more clear what floor you're on. So that's kind of a telltale sign that they believe that they needed to take some corrective measures. Civil lawsuits, it isn't just about like, did you do something wrong? It's also about, what harm did people suffer? Obviously, in Mr. Jean's case, he suffered the ultimate harm. So I think his family would have a more than decent argument to make in a claim against the apartment complex.
It's interesting. The camera just moved, but I don't have any idea what that means.
So they moved it to the jury button, the call button. So it would be a minimum of 5 years in. People suffer. Obviously, in Mr. Jean's case, he suffered the ultimate harm. So I think his family would have a more than decent argument to make in a claim against
Oh
the
yeah.
apartment complex.
Yeah. Let me
It's
do that.
interesting. The
Actually,
camera just moved, but I don't
somebody
have any
asked for the
idea
testimony
what
of the other
that
neighbor.
Oh,
means.
so they moved it to the jury button, the call button. So that plastic button, for people who can see it, if it lights up red, that means the jury
Let me
wants
pull it
something.
up on the other screen.
It could be a question, it could be a verdict, it could be we're ready to go home, whatever. But
It says jury call. on it,
yeah, so
actually.
it's not a button you can push,
These
it's a
guys are talking
light,
about like
and it
dumb
will
stuff,
has to
bro.
serve
We don't care about this.
has to serve 50% of it or 30 years, whichever is shorter. If they don't find her guilty of murder but do find her guilty of manslaughter, then Ms. Guyger can apply to the jury to give her probation.
You
So
see?
that would be the minimum sentence, or if the
So let me
if the
play this
jury
back real quick. This is important.
it would be a minimum of 5 years in prison, a maximum office, and in the judge's chambers.
Okay. Some other questions from folks out there. They
Okay.
want to know what would be the sentence for murder. So, and then
Here we go.
also, is there a possibility of just probation?
So
I guess you got to kind of walk them through murder and
right,
manslaughter.
Very
right.
important.
So,
Check this out.
the punishment for murder is no probation. It would be a minimum of 5 years in prison, a maximum of 99 years or life. More than likely, if the jury finds her guilty of murder, they're also going to make what's called an affirmative finding of a firearm use or a deadly weapon use. And so with that finding, it means that whatever sentence Ms. Guyger gets, she has to serve 50% of it or 30 years, whichever is shorter. If they don't find her guilty of murder but do find her guilty of manslaughter, then Ms. Guyger can apply to the jury to give her probation. So that would be the minimum sentence, or if the jury did not give.
So you guys heard that? She can apply to the jury. So like if the jury's feeling sympathetic and stuff like that. I never heard of this before in my life. This is the first time I'm hearing this. Applying to the jury for probation. Let me play the rest of it.
Give her probation. They could give her a minimum of 2 years in prison or up to 20 years in prison. Both murder and manslaughter also carry with them a fine of up to $10,000. And obviously, if they find her not guilty of both, then the case is over.
I was looking up real quick. I believe that Ken Johnson was the officer the off-duty officer.
So there we go. That's what the charge. It's not much time really if it's just manslaughter. I wanted to play the medical clip, but I do want to hear the neighbors part 2. And shoot, we need to go to bed soon. Are you still there, Ricardo? Let me this is what I'll do. I'm not sure if Ricardo's still here, but are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
You fell
I'm
asleep?
just
Fell asleep?
no, I'm.
Okay.
It's delayed a little bit as
Gotcha.
far as when we're talking and what I see on YouTube.
Yeah, I get that.
I'm just reading the comments from everybody and just now
So-
at this point just quiet because there's no point.
We got the neighbor's testimony that people want to hear. I haven't seen it either, and I also wanted to play the medic part, the CPR part, where they're talking about where she didn't give CPR, and she talks about she did the one-hand CPR, which I want to hear your thoughts about, and they also sternum rub, which I feel like you'd probably have a lot to say about that. But then the other thing too is, can she be held accountable for this, like not doing the proper CPR? And all that stuff.
Yeah, when it comes to that.
What do you want to do?
Yeah,
The
sure.
neighbor first, or the CPR thing?
Let's do the neighbor first, and then
Okay.
we could talk about the medical aspect of what happened there.
So somebody commented the other day, 6 hours and 56 minutes and 22 seconds. We're just about there. We'll play it a few seconds early, see what we get. All right. And I have the quality of the video down, guys, because just for streaming purposes, we really just need to hear what they're saying. We don't really need to see the courtroom and all that, unless you want to see Amber crying. But all right, let's go.
Yeah, I think that the testimony of the witness was very powerful simply because it was him reliving what he actually lived through when it actually happened. He got very emotional himself, and I think it probably has an effect on a lot of people who are listening to it in the courtroom. It's sometimes hard to hear that raw emotion from someone you don't always expect it from. Police officers, firemen, or civilian witnesses.
Okay, so I'm gonna fast forward a little
Because
bit
that can,
because I can see that it
obviously
doesn't
it
start
really is
until like
hard.
7 hours. Let me see. There we go. Okay, here we go.
And
Here's
that's
the
on
neighbor's
State Exhibit
testimony.
34B.
Mr. Brown, my name's Robert Rogers. I just have a few questions for you.
Okay.
And so, just to be clear, when you're about to come down that corner, you definitely hear two voices, correct?
Yes, sir.
And they're mixing together, correct?
Yes, sir.
And so you can't say what was said in that apartment, correct?
No, no, sir.
And then you hear the two gunshots, and like anyone would, you took off.
Yes, sir.
Earlier that day, when with this so-called noise complaint, that's the first time you met Mr. John, correct?
Yes, sir.
Were either of y'all annoyed by it, or was it just whatever?
Just like a surprise. Somebody knocked at our door.
So right now they're talking about some sort of noise complaint. I'm a little. All right, let me keep playing it.
At the leasing, well, did you know who they were? Had you seen them before? Did you know their names?
The leasing people?
Right.
Yeah, I knew who they were.
Okay. But was there any annoyance by either of y'all? Were y'all annoyed by it, or did you just blow it off, or you recall?
I just blew it off.
And that's the first time you had ever met Mr. John, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you never met Miss Guyger, correct?
Yes, sir.
With regard to, you talked about, you went back to your apartment and you were talking about time, like whether it was 2 to 3 minutes or things like that. Obviously, you didn't have a timer. This is a very startling event, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
And so you just know some time elapsed, you went back and looked at the people, some time elapsed, you went back and looked at the people, and you described what you saw, correct?
Right.
Once a lot of police officers arrived, did they knock on your door?
Yes.
And there was a police officer, do you remember he was in like a bike officer's uniform?
Yes, sir.
That asked you some questions?
Yes, sir.
And at the time you responded to those, were you still affected by the stress of what had just happened to you?
Yeah.
No, well, ask the witness.
Just brief, go ahead. Joshua, how long had you lived at that apartment?
A few months, probably like 4 months.
Okay. And had you ever gone to the wrong floor before?
Yeah.
Yes?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And when you went to the wrong floor, how did you know you were on the wrong floor?
I went to the wrong floor on a few occasions. One particular time I can remember.
And I think this is so interesting because some people find that going to the wrong apartment is so crazy, it's impossible. I've said I've done it myself. When you live in those apartment complexes, all those doors look the same. Sometimes when you get onto the elevator, somebody might have hit the floor before where you're supposed to get off. It's just really easy to happen. So that's not really that big of an argument to make as far as the impossibility of getting the wrong apartment.
I remember when I first moved there, I went all the way to the wrong door. I even put my key in the thing, and then I seen it wasn't. And another occasion, I knew that I wasn't on the right floor because as soon as I got to the corner, it's a big vase on the 3rd floor that let me know that I was on the wrong floor. So that's how I kind of knew that from just like the decorations and stuff.
Not to make the case too, and I don't want to interrupt too much, but that big vase was also something that came into question a lot. So like his testimony can kind of go towards Amber, but it also goes against her because he's saying that he basically noticed immediately that he was on the wrong floor. I mean, for me personally, it took walking up to the door and trying to open it to realize that I was at the wrong place. I've even tried to put the key into the place and it didn't turn. So.
Okay. Now let's talk about that big vase. On the third floor, you say you got to the corner. Would that be the same corner that meets the two hallways, but just on the third level versus the fourth level?
Yes, ma'am.
So at this particular day, when you say you actually put your key into the wrong door, that was trying to get into, I guess, 1337 versus 1437?
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then you say once you got another time, there's a big base when you turn that corner.
Right.
Okay, and that's when you recognize, wait a minute, I'm on the wrong floor.
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
Passwords.
Is there a recross, Mr. Rogers? No further questions. May you be excused. No objection.
No objection from the state.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Yo, that's it? That's what somebody told me to tune in for? That's it? I thought there was going to be more than that. I mean, I understand the purpose of his testimony to say that, you know, yes, you can get on the wrong floor, but to the point of where Amber Guyger walked into the wrong place and shot him. But that's it? Wow. I'm a little disappointed with that. All right. Well, I guess that. Oh, there's somebody else. Okay. Well, let's see who this is.
Mr. Jones, please raise your hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mr. Jones. Thank you for being here today.
Good afternoon.
What do you do for a living, sir?
Coach and teach
Okay, what do you teach?
chemistry.
Chemistry. How long have you done that?
I've done that for 10 years now.
Okay, what grades?
I have 10 and 11th grade.
10th and 11th?
Yes.
Okay. My wife is an educator, so I know what you guys have to do, and I greatly appreciate your service. Is that something that you enjoy?
Yes, I do.
Okay. And what do you coach?
Football.
You enjoy that?
Yeah, I love it.
That takes a lot of time, though, I imagine. You got to get there pretty early, especially when it's hot outside.
Yeah, it's pretty long days.
Okay. How's your team doing?
All rise.
Please state your name for the record.
Joshua Brown.
And is that common spelling?
JOSHUABROWN.
Joshua, how old are you?
I'm 28.
28 years old?
Yes, ma'am.
And where are you originally from?
Jacksonville, Florida.
And when did you move to Texas?
2008.
Did you graduate high school?
Yes, ma'am.
What high school did you graduate from?
Crossroads.
Did you attend college?
Yes, ma'am.
And what college did you attend?
South Florida.
And what was your primary studies in?
Interdisciplinary science.
How many years of college did you complete?
4 years.
Okay. And what did you do once you graduated?
Continued to train and try to play football, and ended up picking up a job. After I graduated college, I started doing roofing. So I was a roofing contractor for a few years.
And what kind of work do you do now?
I try to run in my own business. I manage Airbnbs, and that's about it right now. I manage like 4 Airbnbs, 2 in LA, 1 in Atlanta. I'm trying to get 1 in Dallas now, so that'll be the 4th one. Yeah, that's what I do now.
Okay. And Joshua, you've had some issues in the past with police officers in the criminal justice system, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And in 2011, you had a misdemeanor theft conviction?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then in 2016, you had a possession of controlled substance conviction?
Yes, ma'am.
That was a state jail felony?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I want to direct your attention to.
So that whole part with his history about his like the theft or whatever and the narcotics, it's totally unnecessary, right? But I understand why they're bringing it up because you have to understand now that a lot of times too they're going to use whatever they can against you. So he'll probably get cross-examined, and if they don't initially just put everything out there, it's just like in life. If you have secrets and you don't put it out there, people will use it against you. So it's not a big deal. I don't think it hurts his credibility at all. Just whatever. He's just a witness for the whatever. All right.
September 6th, 2018.
Okay.
Where were you residing at the time?
Southside Flats,
What was your apartment number?
1437.
Earlier that day, did you get a visit from the leasing office?
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell the court about that?
The leasing people came, knocked on our doors, and it was like they had a noise complaint. It was around like 2 p.m. It was kind of odd because there wasn't no noise.
Okay, and you said our doors. When you say our, who are you referring to?
Both them door. They came and knocked on me and Bo's door, and just that's how I actually met him because he came out the door.
Okay, and that was on the day of September 6, 2018 at about 2 something in the afternoon?
Yeah, around like 1 or 2.
Okay, and you said it was for a purpose of a noise complaint, but there was no noise?
Right.
Okay, and that was your first time meeting Botham John?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, did y'all have a conversation that day?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, what did y'all talk about?
Basically how me and Bo were both smoking weed, and we kind of knew that it was coming to our door because of maybe the scent of the weed.
Okay, and can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury where was your apartment in relation to Mr. John's apartment?
So if my apartment was right here, I could reach over. You know, Bo's apartment was probably like directly across from mine.
May I approach the witness, Your Honor?
Yes.
Now, Joshua, I'm showing you what's been marked and admitted as State's Exhibit 34B. Do you see your apartment on this location?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And you said what was your apartment number?
4.
Huh? There's a person like Lacey. Oh, you're on. You're back on. Oh, and then you came back off. I see you with the phone in your head. Yep, you said lost cause and then buffered again. Yep, you're back on.
Give me 1 second. Let me see if I can try to fix this. My internet, I have to do something with the data. If not, I might have to end the stream because I don't want to keep you guys waiting. But let me try. Give me a couple of minutes, couple of seconds. Let me see if I can fix this really quick and switch back to the other internet. Okay. Yeah, that's what happened. I maxed out. I thought I was going to be able to bypass the maxing out by doing a USB tethering, but apparently...
Yeah, but I think it's going to be like that as far as I think you're just going to come on for like seconds and then buffer again.
Oh, okay. see if I can do this. Yeah, I might have to cut the stream. Damn, that was getting good too with the whole apartment thing. Let me do this.
Yeah.
If there's people watching, let me end this